new stream, the first one in many weeks actually, like over 2 months, I think. I know it's strange, and I may sound a little different because I'm not streaming this through my usual setup in my, office room, because I'm in my living room, das Wohnzimmer. And I haven't done a stream like this in quite a while. This is a cozy couch stream, as I like to call it. A spontaneous one, so I didn't really announce this. These are like almost always spontaneous. Whenever I think, I have a certain time window, a frame of time in which I can stream spontaneously, I may do some of these every now and then. And it's always interesting, it's a different setting. I'm basically sitting like this, I'm basically laying down. And it's a little bit more cozy, therefore. So, hi, by the way. Shaka 1438, hi. And number Wendevus, I'm probably butchering all of your names. I'm sorry. But I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much for tuning in. So like I said, also for people who may tune into this after the stream has ended, this is a spontaneous stream. Those comfy, cozy couch streams, they are almost always spontaneous, so you didn't miss any announcements, don't worry. I just wanted to, check in with you guys. Hope you're doing well. I'm not butchering your name, actually. Wow. Thank you very much for, assuring me in a way. Because sometimes, with names, especially when it comes to usernames, English, other languages, sometimes it's hard for people like me, like creators, YouTubers, streamers, to really pronounce them correctly. Because you never know what the person intended, if they had a certain sound in mind. And quite often, also in the German language, but even more so in like English and other languages, I feel the way you spell something doesn't equal the same way, or doesn't equal the way you pronounce the word. And sometimes that can be tricky, of course, right? So, yeah, I hope you're doing well, everyone. You're looking forward to the last month of the year. Maybe a bit stressful, I don't know. But Christmas is approaching, and I keep saying this and thinking to myself, the older I get, I'm 34 and a half. But the older I get and the more settled I am in my personal way of living, job-wise and everything, the quicker time proceeds. And it's an interesting observation that I share with, or a sentiment that I share with many people, I guess, from all around the world. The older you get, the quicker time passes, seemingly. Which I think has to do, and I talked about this with a friend of mine the other day, and they said that, well, it also has to do, like, psychologically, with the older you get, the more experiences you have made, and the more types of experiences you've made that repeat, that remain the same. And the older you get, the less new situations you experience and you live through. And therefore, your brain and how you work, how you think and perceive the world is accommodated. The more common those things are, the faster the passing of time feels, if that makes sense. It's an interesting thought. And it totally makes sense when you think about it, because the older you get, usually the more different types of situations you have already faced in your life. And there's less new stuff happening, like completely new. Of course, you make new experiences and, you get to know new people. You may find a new job and you live somewhere else and, all those kinds of things, of course. But like gradually new ground shaking, ground shifting situations, they become less and less. And yeah, that is why the passing of time may feel a little bit quicker. Nember says, I have exams coming up next week, but I'm fine. All the best and good luck, of course. German exams or just like general exams? Administrator 80,085 says, first of all, hi, thanks for tuning in. Glad you're here. Yes, we get used to all the experiences until there's only one new experience left. And then like the skull emote. Emoji. Yeah, true. Very philosophical beginning of the stream, but I like it. I'm really open for, these the bigger thoughts in life, if that makes sense, and questions that we all have to face consciously or subconsciously. But I've always been interested in these philosophical thoughts and also the psychology of why do we work the way we work, and why do we think the way we think, why do we perceive the world the way we do, all those kinds of things. So Pensive Dave, yes, very much so. Thank you. I've got general exams and I'm learning a foreign language in school, but it's not German. No. But I'm glad. I mean, I guess since you're watching my channel and the stream right now, I guess you're also interested in the German language. So, nonetheless, good luck, of course. For me personally, the time of exams, it's over for the foreseeable future, as long as I don't want to, study anew or restart my studies from back in the day when I aborted my studies. But yeah. It was strange though, because from like 98 when I got into elementary school up until 2021 when I left, or when I finished my degrees in terms of my job, my job traineeship, that is. It's like 23 years of exams and from one to the next and a test here and there and everything. And I was so used to that it was really strange to get into a new situation in life, like the proper job, where you're not faced with those things. Technically speaking, of course, you're also faced with, challenges, and that is good, because that keeps you motivated, that keeps you learning something new, because life is learning, as we all know. But yeah, I'm the times of exams, that is long gone for me, but I can vividly remember and recall those situations, of course. Administrator S, when was the last time you verschlimmbessert in English? So do you mean in terms of, when I wanted to express something and I couldn't really find the right way to do it, the right words and expressions, and then I tried to explain something in a weird way and it made it even worse and less comprehensible? I mean, those situations, they happen. I mean, the thing is, apart from you guys, I'm not really communicating in English to other people regularly. Sometimes I do it when I meet up with like mutual friends of Get Germanized and me, our mutual friends. Some of them come from, Canada or the US or other parts of the world. And then, of course, mostly we can communicate in English. And those are the situations which are really challenging, of course. But also with you guys, sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. And I don't know if that's the way you meant your question, you intended it, but yeah. Verschlimmbessern is a very interesting word in German, by the way. It's a verb. Verschlimmbessern. I actually made a video about that term quite a few years ago, so you can check it out if you want to. And it's one of the most creative yet weirdest words we have in German, because literally speaking, it means to worse better something, to worse better. Your intention is to make something better, but because you are trying to make something better in a awkward weird, not so thoughtful way, a reflected way, you actually make it worse as a result. That is the idea of verschlimmbessern. And it's one of those beautiful German words. It's a compound verb, which is compared to, like nouns and adjectives and other types of words, quite rare, I would say. We have many compound terms in the German language in general, but most of them are nouns or, adjectives. But verbs, compound verbs, they exist. But, I don't know the numbers, but I feel like they are rarer, like more rare. That is also something, that is a term pronunciation wise in the English language that I, as a non-native speaker, I find really hard to enunciate. Rarer, rarer. It always sounds strange, but you get the drill. So yeah, it's a term that I really like, and it's one of the reasons why I love the German language, because it can be so creative at times, and it's a weird term, but the weirdness of it still works. It's not too weird. It's not so weird or strange that you wouldn't use it. It's weird, but it's great. And it works as with the way, or the way it's intending to express that you want to better something, but instead you make it worse. Verschlimmbessern. Both components are in there, and therefore it works perfectly. If I wanted to work in Germany, how important is vitamin B, vitamin B, as we say? Yeah. Meaning having connections and knowing people. I mean, generally in life, that's very important, of course, and very helpful. It's hard to answer because, it's good to have that. It's good to have people that that already live in Germany, that are German, that might be able to help you to talk to, departments and to help you fill out paperwork and all those kinds of things that are necessary, of course. So it can be beneficial, and definitely is beneficial. I guess, getting in touch with companies that are looking for people, and German companies, pretty much all of them, are looking for people left and right and center, everywhere. And they are also looking for people from other countries, from other parts of the world, because the German demographic is tricky at the moment, and it will be tricky for the foreseeable future, because right now, and it's a big part of the political and social discussion that we have in Germany, without going into detail, because I'm not talking about politics on this channel and in general, in public. It's a decision that I've made a long time ago, because this channel is politics free in a way. I don't want to talk about parties and specific political topics. Not that I'm not interested. I am very interested and invested in that, but this is not the place. I want to keep this channel as a safe haven for people that want to get away from that temporarily. After a long day's work, that want to get edutainment in terms of the German language and culture. That is my approach. Nothing wrong with talking about politics, don't get me wrong, just saying that. That being said, though, the demographic in Germany is tricky for politics in terms of, how do we cope with getting into the older years of your life, where you get where you don't get paid alone, where you don't work for companies anymore. You get die Rente, which is, what's that in English? Anyway, and what I want to say is Germany has a problem with having a lot of older people, senior citizens, like 50, 60, 70 plus, retirees, right? Thank you very much. Der Rentner, the retiree. And nothing wrong with those people. Don't get me wrong. It's just the numbers, they don't correlate. There are so many more retirees than there are young people or pensioners, yeah, or that than there are young people that can pay for the retirees and the because that is how it works in Germany. We have das Umlagensystem. We basically German people that are working, they have to pay a certain amount of their loan, and that gets directly, or that leads into the payments, the loans of the retirees, the pensioners. So it's a direct relation. There's no parking of the money in between. It's a direct relation. Young pay for the old. That is the idea of the German retiree system, basically, in a very basic words. It's much more complicated, of course, but that's the basic idea. And the problem is, for many decades and years, I think the current system was instated in the 1950s, 1957, 1958, if I'm not mistaken, long time ago, where there were way less older people and much more, like many more younger people. These days, though, currently, and in the upcoming few years, that has changed. And that is the big problem. So, yeah. Long story short, try to get in touch with German companies and recruiters directly and ask them if they can help you with getting a job and filling out the paperwork, because it's hard for you to do for obvious reasons. Maybe or I guess that is the best way to do it, to be open and frank. And yeah, wishing you all the luck in the world, of course. I found the Brit. Unique, by the way, unique cake Bokwe. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. I hope I didn't. I'm certainly certain. I'm certainly certain that I did. Hi, thanks for tuning in. Ray, my flutter. Hi, thanks for tuning in, of course. Dankeschön, I haven't watched your videos yet, but I'm planning to do until I reach B1. By the way, now that you mentioned the GER level B1, I updated all my 700 plus videos in the past weeks, and I added GER levels in the thumbnail and the title and the description. So I hope they are more or less accurate, and they might be helpful for you to really deliberate and to see which videos are suited for your level of learning German and comprehending German. And I also made courses like German for beginners, which is A1, A2, and B1 a little bit in there. German for intermediate learners, which is B1, B2 plus, and C1. And then there's an advanced course for C1 and C2, which only has one video in it at the moment, but yeah, might grow in the future. We'll see. So just so you know, I updated, I added that, I updated all the videos, and yeah, hope that might be an additional help for you guys understanding the German language and culture a little bit better. It's not a full course in the sense of, structurally from the beginning of all beginnings to becoming almost like a native speaker. It's not the way I make videos, and it's not the way this works. It's additional content for people that are interested in learning German in their stage, whether it's beginners, A1, A2, intermediate learners, B1, B2, or advanced learners, C1, C2. So yeah, hope this helps. Unique says, I recently passed my B1 exam and I'm looking forward to B2. Awesome. Congratulations. That's cool. That is very good to hear. And keep going. Keep going. Keep learning, because that's the most important thing, to keep going. Even though it might be stressful and, you know, hard at times, of course, but it's worth it in the end. And you can only make it if you keep going, if you keep learning. That's the, I guess, the hardest part, you know? So, your English is perfect. I wouldn't have guessed you weren't a native English speaker. Thank you very much. I try my very best, and I've gotten better at it, much better at it, actually, in recent, like, 10 years, since I'm doing this channel, since I'm making videos on this channel, since I'm speaking English more and more regularly. And it's interesting, I've already talked about that in past streams a little bit. When I went to school in Germany, and in German schools, you pretty much always get taught British English as a standard. Nothing wrong with that, right? It's just the common way we learn English in school. And kindergarten these days, and elementary school these days, which didn't happen when I went to school. The first English course that I had was in 5th grade in grammar school. Nowadays, it begins much earlier in elementary school and even kindergarten, and that's great. That is awesome, because you can't start learning a language too early, I don't think. The earlier you do it, the easier it is for you to absorb all the different information. So that is a good change in my book. Anyway, these days I'm pretty much speaking like an American English type of English, I guess. Sometimes there are words where I mix things because it's so embrained, and integrated in the brain. The old way of learning English as British English, that I might mix up a few things. And of course, I'm saying some things like completely wrong, word order wise or whatnot. But I can still get my point across most of the time. So sometimes I'm lacking vocabulary, like, retiree, der Rentner, or Pensionier, because it's not part of my daily, vocabulary, my daily conversation, my daily thinking, that I don't really know those terms by heart, but I could still express myself well enough that you knew what I meant and that you could give me the correct word. So, and that is all that counts, I think, when you learn a foreign language. So, iron. Yeah, that is also something. Administrator just said, let me hear you say the word iron, like in Iron Man or Iron Maiden. 7, 8, 9 out of 10 Germans would say iron. Most definitely, they would say iron, because they haven't learned that it's iron. I know it, but I've known that since like only a few years, to be honest. Before that, I also said iron, because it's spelled like that. It's iron, right? But it's iron, or herb instead of herb. Even though I think, with that term, if I'm not mistaken, there are differences in terms of like British English, American English, Australian English, New Zealand English, I don't know, Canadian English. I guess sometimes you can say herb with the H at the beginning, right? But the way I know it is without it, herb. I don't know why, but yeah. And we also have those things in German, of course. But, I guess most Germans would also struggle with squirrel. Eichhörnchen, squirrel. They might say squirrel, squirrel, I don't know. And I'm not blaming them, don't get me wrong. It's the total natural thing to do, because if you don't know better, you try to do it. And many Germans also struggle with the English the th. They might say the. I mean, I guess it's a common cliche stereotype. For good reasons, because many Germans don't know it better. They can't really say it better, even if they tried. Once again, I'm not blaming them. The reason for that is, and that was one of the first videos that I made on the channel, why are Germans struggling with the English th? And I didn't give an explanation because I didn't have one at the time. I just made that video in 2015 as a way of getting your guys' perspective, if that makes sense. And from what you've replied in the comments under that video, I learned, and it totally makes sense. I think it's multiple reasons. One of the biggest reasons is that in German, we simply don't have that sound, that phoneme, the th. We don't have that. You might find a few words that contain th in German, but then it wouldn't be the, but it would simply be t. Like there's the name Thelonious, for instance. Thüringen is a great example. Thuringia, the German state Thuringia in middle to east Germany. Thüringen starts with a th, but it's not Thüringen, of course, because, like I said, that phoneme doesn't exist, that sound doesn't exist in the German language. It's just T, Thüringen. Thüringen. It's not Thüringen, but it's Thüringen. And that is, I guess, one of the biggest reasons why Germans struggle with the English th. Yeah. Great example, administrator. Queen Map 1999. Hi. Thanks for tuning in. How are you doing? By the way, sorry if I missed you. Yeah, I definitely missed you. I'm sorry. I'd love to learn German, they said. I'm half German on my dad's side. Awesome. Awesome. So, catching up on your comments. We had a family friend who was German. He passed away a few years ago. I'm sorry to hear that. My kids started English in the 4th grade. It's impressive. Yeah. And like I said, in my opinion, I guess that's consensus for most people. I don't know. In my opinion, you can't really start learning a foreign language, a second language, too early. Because the younger you are, it also has to do with, like biology, how the human being develops and the brain develops and everything, how the brain works in certain stages of life. The younger you are, the more, I like to call it like a sponge mode. The more your brain is like a sponge in terms of you perceive and you save information unfiltered, more or less unfiltered, the younger you are. And it's easier to absorb new information and to make it part of your cognitive DNA, if that makes sense. I'm no expert on that, but from what I know and read and heard, that's, how little children basically learn new stuff easier. And I guess we all can relate in a way. The older you get, the harder it may be to learn something new, completely new. The younger you are, the easier it is to learn something new because the brain works differently. And that is why I think, let kids learn a foreign language in kindergarten. Definitely. Ray Faye, hi. Thanks for tuning in. Please, how can I improve my listening so that I can understand natives? My Hören is very bad. Well, I could plug my podcast now, and maybe I will do it. I guess I will do it. I have a podcast. It's called the Definitely German Podcast. It has its very own YouTube channel, by the way. Can I write something into the chat? Is that possible? I don't know. Anyway, I guess I can, right? Let's see. Somehow? There's no field for me to write it, something. No, I don't think I can. Anyway, I have a podcast. It's the Definitely German Podcast. 3 words. It's linked in every video description and on my main channel page. And it's for intermediate to advanced learners because I speak German there in the natural way that I speak German. Sometimes with guests, mostly alone. I talk about various different topics, ranging from media, from music, to movies, to things that happen in my life, events. I'm sorry. I have to drink something really quick, I think. And podcasts in general are great. Especially when you have people, like 2 people that interact with each other and talk to each other in German. I also have a second podcast. First of all, I have to drink something though, because my throat is really dry. I'm sorry. I also have a second podcast with a friend of mine, also in German. And that podcast is called Cast. It's the latter part of podcast, cast, apostrophe em, cast, space, like blank space, apostrophe em, cast. Yes, that is a big mug, and that is a big mug. I have like ordinary, like bigger tea mugs, but only like 4 of them at the moment, and all of them are in the dishwasher. So I have to use this for my tea. It's like a soup mug, basically. But it works, it works. Better than nothing. Anyway, yeah, that is, podcasts are a great way to improve your listening practice, your listening skills. Watching German TV shows, watching German, like there are a lot of political TV shows in Germany. Sadly, I can't write anything into the chat, otherwise I would be writing those names here. So if you're into that, it may be tricky because there are like 4 or 5 people speaking German, but those may also help. So yeah. I also, in addition to the podcast that I just talked about, the Definitely German Podcast, available on all podcast or streaming platforms you hear or like to check out music or podcasts through. Excuse me. And it's also a dedicated YouTube channel here, which you can subscribe to if you want to. It's for free. It's simply called Definitely German Podcast. But it's on Spotify, Apple Music, and you name it. I don't have like an upload schedule, by the way. I upload quite irregularly, but I try to do it every few weeks on that podcast channel and in that podcast in general. So yeah, what I wanted to say real quick, before I catch up with you guys again, I also have made quite a few shorter German listening practice type of videos. Just type in German listening practice on my channel page, or German listening practice, Definitely German, and you will find those videos. There are like 8, 9, 10 minutes maybe, or like sometimes maybe even like 15 minutes, I don't know, plus, minus, more or less, in which I quickly talk about a topic. Like back in the day, I had a foot injury. I talked about that. I talked about the back then new Star Wars movie. I think the 7th one, The Last Jedi, I think it was. I remember having talked about having had like we got stuck in, like, a friend of mine and we got stuck in a snowstorm in a car back in the day. I also talked about Breaking Bad. I talked about Game of Thrones, those types of things. You can find all of that on my channel. It's like a few years ago already, but yeah. Goethe, by the way, administrator, also great example of the German TH, which is simply like a T, Goethe. I know a little bit of Rammstein German. Yeah, there are 80 plus Rammstein related videos on the channel. So if you're into learning German with Rammstein, into understanding what they are actually singing about and what the lyrics are all about, check out my Rammstein playlist with, like I said, 80 plus Rammstein related videos so far. It's easier when one is younger, when young is oner. What is your opinion on how AI will alter language learning? Gut oder schlecht, good or bad? That's a big question. That's an interesting question, though. Of course it is. I think there is not like a single answer to this because it depends, at the end of the day, I think it depends on the convenience level of how much will AI make language learning obsolete or easier. I don't think it will make it obsolete totally but it also depends on how the person themselves, how they think about it and how they work. I don't have anything against like simultaneous translator apps that immediately translates what someone says through AI. It's a great invention, right? And it's convenient. But I also think, if I know that I'm going to live in another country, for instance, if I'm going to emigrate into another country that doesn't really speak like English, or maybe let's use English as an example because it also works. If I didn't know English that well or on the level that I do, of course I could use an app. But if I knew that I'm going to live there for at least a few years of my life, I personally would like to know the basics of the language at least. I would like to be able to communicate, not just, by running around with a phone all day long and holding it into people's faces, like, say something and it will translate for me. It's valid, you can do it, nothing wrong. But to only do that, like exclusively, I wouldn't like to do that. Also because it feels insensitive and I don't know. But that's how I think about it. And that is why I said, there's not a single answer to this question, I don't think. It depends on the person. It comes down to an individual level at the end of the day, though. So it will change, what you all know that AI will change so many fields in life. And the thing is, and that's so appalling to me in discussions on is AI good or bad or not, and how good can it be and how bad can it be. At the end of the day, you can't change transformation. You can't stop it. You can try to regulate it. You can try to form it, of course. But you can't stop like progress. And it doesn't apply only to AI, also in other fields of life, technological and developments. You can't really stop it. You have to cope with it. You have to live with it. And it doesn't matter. That is what I want to say. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. You can't stop it. It just will happen. If there are so many people, so many big players in the market that will push it into people's faces one way or the other. And if it's something, at the end of the day, I think, if it's something that makes life in general or a certain aspect of life for people more convenient, it will win. Because I'm usually I'm not the biggest fan of like simple sentences that are like strict rules for life, like this is that and always in every single situation. But honestly speaking, one rule that I personally find that applies in so many different fields of life and daily life as well is convenience wins over quality experience. It has happened in music. It the way we how we perceive music, how easy it is streaming compared to buying CDs. The convenience of streaming music over having to buy a CD and pay money for it, like much more money than we have to pay for streaming services, convenience wins. And of course, there's the monetary factor in all of that, of course, but at the end of the day, it also has to do with convenience. And, you know, going into a store versus ordering something online. Convenience. And once again, as sad as it may sound, I think in most of these cases, for like a large part of that also just comes down to whether you like it or not, it's happening, and it's better to cope with it and to make the best out of it, and also not, give in. I'm not saying that it's the best way of dealing with it to just let it roll. Of course, you have to, especially from a government side of things, like a state level side of things, you have to keep an eye on that. Not in terms of regulating or censoring, of course, but in terms of not sleeping on the trend. That is the bigger problem that I see in some parts of the world. Once again, without going into detail, not a political channel, but it's tricky. It's definitely an interesting field, and AI, it's only the beginning. And the thing is, the LLMs, large language models that we are working with at the moment as like common people. I'm not talking about like high-tech companies, talking about the commoners, common people like you and me in daily life, ChatGPT and, Gemini and you name them. That is, it's recreating, and it's giving answers to prompts that you type in. But the thing is, it's not like totally transformative. It can make pictures, but in everything that it answers and replies to you, it doesn't create something totally new. It always comes up, or it always uses already existing material. That is what I want to say. And therefore, many people make the argument of, you can't really call it AI yet in the actual sense of the word, like artificial intelligence, in the sense of creating something completely new from scratch. Not saying that it won't happen, certainly will happen, I guess. It's only a matter of time, singularity and everything. But technically speaking, like what we are using right now, from my understanding, I'm not an expert, but from my understanding, from what I've read and heard, it's not like total artificial intelligence. It's a step towards that, but it's not like, it's large language model. It's large language learning. It's machines that have accumulated so much data and information, but it's existing data and information, and then they process that and give out the most probable result and answer. And that's how it works. So, yeah. I'm saying that because I think, many people are a little bit, how should I say, disingenuous, I don't know, careless when it comes to using AI as like a big buzzword for everything when it's not really there yet in a large scale or on a larger scale, that is. Right? Um, by the way, talking about mugs, I just read the mug. Hallo zusammen. Oh, it's mirrored. I'm sorry. You can check out if you want to if you want to support the channel and what I'm doing on the channel, of course. You can check out my merch shop. I set up a merch shop a few years ago. I didn't really promote it yet, to be honest. And I'm not, I'm also gonna work on it, on like designs here and there still. But if you need to get a new mug, a small one or a bigger one, or like a shirt or a hoodie or something else, check out the merch, my merch shop. So it ships worldwide. That's also something that I wanted to make sure. And I have quite a few different designs on there. Like I said, like this mug, for instance, which says Hallo zusammen, which is my signature introduction to every video, which means hello together, literally speaking, Hallo zusammen. And then there's my ugly face on the other side, for instance. And yeah, you can find a link to that one in the description down below, of course, and on my main channel page in the info tab. So just saying, plug. I mean, if I'm not gonna plug my merchandise, who's gonna do it, right? I have to do it. So yeah, I'm always a bit hesitant with mentioning that though, because I don't want to be like, or I don't want to seem like someone who's like selling out and whatnot, that type of stuff. But on the other hand, I think, if I have the merch, I need to promote it, I guess. So every now and then at least. So yeah, now you know. Do you ever talk about your love of Schlager? Since I don't have a love of Schlager, I'm not talking about it, no. I'm sorry. Have you ever been to Hungary? No, I haven't. I haven't really been to too many countries yet anyway, like at all. A coworker of mine, he's in Japan. He's been in Japan for the entire month, like 4 weeks straight. And I envy him in a only positive way because he's an awesome guy, and I'm not a fan of envying someone in a negative way. When I envy someone, I always do it in a positive way. Like I'm happy for them. And I would love to go to Japan, for instance, at some point. I have to save some money, to be honest, at the moment, because some of you may know or have read it. A few weeks ago, I did a big thing for me personally. I bought the flat that I'm living in, that I've been living in for 3 years. And that's a big step, of course. And yeah, so I have to save some money at the moment. And but I would like to travel to different places, different parts of the world, because I haven't really done that in my life yet. I've never flown. I've never been on a plane yet. I haven't been outside of Europe. I've been to the Netherlands a few times now. I've been to France once. I have been to the Czech Republic once, but only like shortly behind the border and many years ago. But apart from that, like when we drove to France, we drove through like Switzerland and Italy, of course. Yeah, we did that, but I haven't really been there, I haven't been to the US. I haven't been to the UK. I haven't been to Australia. I haven't been to, Egypt is something that I'm really interested in, the Great Pyramids and everything. And it's not like FOMO, it's not like the fear of missing out. That's not a struggle that I have, like actively. But I know, as you get older, it may not become easier to do that. And I'm not putting myself under pressure there, but I would like to see other parts of the world in the future. Won't do it right now because I have other priorities. Like I said, I just bought this flat. That is a big priority at the moment to save some money. And yeah, that's that. Don't get me wrong, I can't complain. I'm happy the way I'm living my life. I have a great job. I'm, I'm socially embedded in a great way, like with family and friends and everything. I have enough time for, what I want to do in terms of making videos, in terms of recording podcast episodes, in terms of, just having me time, which is very important for me. And I can't complain, And I guess in a few years, maybe I might be able to travel the world a little bit here and there at least and see other parts of the world. I mean, I'm just 34. I'm gonna turn 35 next year, so I'm still young, I know. But yeah. We'll see. We'll see. Dave's getting good at promo. Well, I don't know if I'm getting good at that, but I try. I've donated to a Belgian charity before. That's awesome. I've also done that. It's something that it wasn't a Belgian charity, but charity projects. It's not something, to be honest, that I like to talk about publicly because I don't want to sound like I'm bragging with it, because that's not the point at all. And quite quickly, people can perceive that in a negative way, I think. But yes, I've also donated to like charitable projects before, whether it's like by German streamers. There is a project called Friendly Fire, for instance, which takes place every year. It should take place in like a few days from now, I think, with big German creators and YouTubers and streamers. Gronk, for instance, who I like to watch as well. And they are raising money for, charitable projects, different ones. I also donated something already to a project by the American streamer Carnage, who I really like watching. He's one of my favorite creators. And he has something going on with the St. Jude Foundation or St. Jude Hospital for children, I think it is. And that kind of stuff. But yeah. Anyway, I don't want to really talk about it too much because, I don't want to. Some things don't have to be public, I don't think. But yeah, because you're addressed the topic, I wanted to, give my 2 cents. That is why I talked about it. But other than that, I'm not really that keen on, talking about those things because I don't want to sound it strange or, if that I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if you know what I mean, but yeah. Working Delta, by the way. Hi, thanks for tuning in. And keine Ahnung, thanks for tuning in as well. Working on the It's Easier to Learn German When You Are Young. What, therefore, would your advice be to learn German when you are in your 50s? Man, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, and it may be difficult. I don't know what level you are, but if you are like intermediate to advanced, one idea that I have would be rewatch some of your favorite movies and or series that if you know something by heart almost, like if you've seen a movie like 10 times because it's your favorite movie, and you know pretty much every line by heart. Harry Potter or like Lord of the Rings or I don't know, Matrix. Try to watch it in German this time, but with English subtitles, for instance, so that you have a correlation of what they are saying, or with German subtitles, and keep doing that every now and then. And maybe at some point you don't even need the subtitles because you have a basic understanding, like as a listening practice, of what they are saying. Now, that doesn't work for like vocabulary knowledge and vocabulary learning in a direct way because it's not shown in the movie, of course, this term means that. But that is why I said like I think that's an option for intermediate or especially advanced learners. And I mean, when you're in your 50s and everything, I guess trying to translate important words that you use in your job, for instance, that you have to cope with in a regular fashion, in a regular way, like daily maybe even. That is a great way to, to write little cards maybe. And one side is the English term, the other side, the flip side, is the German term. Incorporating those elements in your daily life and routine, I think that is key. Because if you don't keep going at it, if you don't do it in a regular way, you won't memorize it well enough. I don't think. I have a really good podcast for beginners. It's helpful and slow. It is called German for Beginners with Falk. Awesome. Awesome. More power to you and all the best. The key to learning copiousness. Interesting term. Fill your brain with all sorts of source information, learn the basics, and then bombard your brain. Make it fun. That's great. I haven't heard of that term yet. Copiousness. Thanks for sharing. Learned something new. I learned a new English term. Awesome. Copiousness. My Uncle Tim used to live in California. I would like to go to California, of course, at some point. Thanks so much. Can you tell me the political TV shows in German? I mean, we have quite a few. The ones that I like to watch are Markus Lanz. That's the name of the person. Markus with a K, because that's the German way of spelling it. Markus Lanz. It's Markuslanz. Markus Lanz. 2 words. And it's best to check out snippets, and sometimes they upload the whole episodes on YouTube, because if you try to check it out through the German like media hubs of those TV channels, there may be like a geo restriction and you may not be able to watch them. But on YouTube, that doesn't apply. So I don't think, for the most part. And then there is Maybrit Illner, which is also a name. In Germany, we have a tendency to call those talk shows just by the name of the host and nothing more. Maybrit Illner, it's MaybritIllner. Maybrit Illner. It's a woman. Then we also have Karen Mioska, also a woman. It's Karen, last name, following now, Miosg. Karen Mioska. I think it's Miosga, Mioska. It's with a G at the end, right? Karen Mioska. Yeah. And then there is also, I mean, like I said, we have quite a few. Then there's also one that doesn't have the host names as its name. It's Hart aber fair, which translates to hard but fair, or like strict but fair. It's 3 words, three, German way of showing the number three, Inglorious Bastards. Yeah. Also made a few videos about those movies and the German scenes in those movies. Inglorious Bastards, Django Unchained, X-Men. Just saying, check it out. Plug. Promote. It's HART, second term, ABER, third term, FAIR, fair. Hard, aber fair. Let's see. I mean, there are many more, but those are like the biggest at the moment in German television, I think. Yeah. And I like to watch all of them, basically, depending on the topic and the people that are invited here and there. But yeah. Do you play any PlayStation 3 games? Since I don't own a PlayStation 3 anymore, no. I mean, every now and then I also have third channel, Dave Durden TV, which is a Let's Play channel, a German Let's Play channel here on YouTube, German only. And I have been playing the old Uncharted games, for instance, like 1, 2, and 3 so far. And I think the first one is for PlayStation 3, and the second one maybe as well. I don't know. So yeah, I'm playing PlayStation 3 games, but not on the PlayStation 3, but on the PS5. Sometimes. Do you think man kann 2 Sprachen gleichzeitig lernen? Do you think that you can learn 2 languages simultaneously? I guess it's possible. Does it make sense to do it? Does it make things easier? I doubt it. I'm not sure. I haven't done that, so I can't. I mean, technically speaking, it's at one point in my life, I have learned 2 languages simultaneously. English and Latin. Because back in school, I mean, English is mandatory. But then at like 7th grade, at least it was like that for me. At 7th grade, you have to choose a second foreign language. And you could choose between Latin and French, which is quite a common choice in German schools. And I chose Latin because so many languages are derived from Latin. And if you know the Latin word, you can derive foreign words easier. And sometimes it is helpful for me if I see a term in like Spanish or French that I don't know because I don't speak those languages, but I know the Latin origin of those words, I can create the context of what the person might want to express, right? So yeah. I suspect AI will develop into earphones with mics that translate, and the more you hear the answer to the answer, you will get to know the native answer. It could also suggest answers with translation. Yeah, true. The most important thing for me personally would be, and everyone maybe, some may disagree, I don't know. For me personally, I like to also, I like to use AI, and I keep using it pretty much regularly these days. Not for everything, but for some things. I personally like to maintain the HI element of life as well, to some degree at least, which is the human intelligence, HI. Which, as long as you keep HI going and living, and if you still think for yourselves in very important aspects and pretty much, in daily life, you can use AI as an additional tool, but it shouldn't replace or substitute HI in that regard. And don't want to sound dystopian, but I could see at least some people being tempted to not really think about things themselves anymore and just delegate everything to AI. Because it's, once again, coming full circle, it's convenient. Why should they process? Why should they use their energy to think themselves if they can delegate it and outsource that to AI? And if they want to do it that way, yeah, I can't stop them. I won't stop them. But for myself, I'd like to think personally first before I start using something, or before I refine my thought with AI and my thought processes and everything. But yeah. Okay, guys, you lost some weight. You look slimmer than your mug picture. Thank you very much for telling me. And yes, I lost some weight. It's interesting that people see that in my face because, I mean, I have a puffy beard at the moment, but I don't know what it is, how people see that. I feel it, in my belly has become slimmer. Yes, still have little belly. I don't mind though. And yes, I have lost maybe like not too much, I don't think, but a few kilograms maybe over the past like 7, 8, 9, 10-ish months, I guess, maybe even more, like a year. And now, like, quite a few people actually told me that, like, you lost weight. And I see it in your face. Like, also people, a few weeks ago, I visited friends of mine that I hadn't seen in quite a few months. And they also told me that. So it's interesting that you guys tell me that. And it's awesome, of course. Thank you very much for telling me and for sharing that. I don't know what it is, though. But I like it. I like it. Oh, you're in Belém. Rita, Cerejo. Hi, and thanks for tuning in. First and foremost, Rita, I don't know if I guess you have noticed that our chancellor spoke in a not so nice fashion about Belém the other day. And I'm not in the position of, saying anything about Belém because I haven't been there. I don't know the city. But I just I feel the need to say sorry from a German perspective, from my perspective at least, that I think it was unnecessary for him to say what he said. He basically said that, I asked a fellow journalist that came with me to Belém, for the climate conference and everything, and I asked them, how many of you would like to live here? How many of you would like to stay? And none of them raised their hands. And Germany is such a nice country and so beautiful. And yes, Germany is a beautiful country, lots of nature and everything. But I still thought of that. That was insensitive for him to say it like that and totally unnecessary. And therefore, to be honest, from my point of view, from me personally, I would like to say sorry. Not all Germans think that. And yeah, I just think it was insensitive of him to say that. No matter how you agree with his politics or not, that doesn't matter. If it just was an insensitive, unnecessary thing to say like that. It just was unnecessary. It didn't bring anything to the table. It doesn't help anything in terms of bilateral cultural exchange and, working together. Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe you haven't, I don't know how many people actually heard about that in Brazil. Like happened like 1 or 2 weeks ago, I think. Not, or like a few days ago. But I feel the need to say, like, not all Germans feel that way. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry in a way. Yeah. Man, hi from Egypt. I'm sorry. I I missed so many messages because I keep talking and talking and talking, which is something that I like to do. I want to see Mexico. Yeah, also want to go to Mexico. Iceland, definitely. Dave, do you feel you're thinking about age a lot these days? Big questions today, man. Uh, every now and then. I mean, I'm getting grayer by the year. Yes, I do. It's not something new. Like also here, and it's mostly though when I see people that I know and I've known for years, they become older, they age, and when I see that when they get gray hair and everything, yeah, it keeps reminding me of time flies, and like I said, coming full circle to the beginning of the stream, I don't keep thinking about like on a regular basis because you know what? I personally like to live in the moment. It might sound very like spiritual and Zen and Buddhist, and maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not religious. I don't follow any like dogma. I don't follow any way of thinking like specifically in terms of that. But I still try to live in the moment as much as I can. I don't want to dwell too long on nostalgic things. I don't want to think about the past too long. Sometimes I do, and sometimes it's great to do that, to think about memories past and things that were. And to be honest, I don't really plan too much ahead into the future either. There are some things, like me having bought this flat recently. Yes, I'm thinking about into the future, like 2025 is if 20, 25-ish years of paying off this flat. It's a long plan, and it's a plan into the future. All of those things, yeah. Apart from that, though, I'm not really like planning too much ahead. I've never done that. It's not in my nature, I don't think. And I live like, yeah, of course I know, okay, this and this, I have a calendar, this and this will happen in 1 week, 2 weeks, and maybe even a year from now. Like I already know that I'm gonna see Hans Zimmer and the Foo Fighters live next year. I know that. And we're gonna go to the Netherlands again with a company in May, and and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. I already know that, but apart from those things, I don't really plan like 5 years ahead or 10 years ahead. And when luckily I didn't have those things, those conversations, like in job interviews. But a common question, at least in Germany, is like, where do you see yourself in like 5 years from now, or where do you see yourself in like 10 years from now? And it's valid questions from the company's perspective, of course, because they want to see how you want to plan. Do you want to move away? Do you want to emigrate into a different country, which lessens the chances of you getting the job? Maybe, I don't know, here and there. So I get that, but yeah, I don't plan that long ahead, buddy. Like I know. Um, Hi from Egypt. Keine Ahnung, ich darf nicht klagen. Abridge in German, similar, maybe in some ways. So, uh, okay, Rita. I guess yeah. You've heard about that, but yeah, I just wanted to say like sorry. I would like to go to Brazil at some point, definitely. So yeah. Anyway, guys, I'm really sorry, but I have to go now. And yeah, by the way, one last thing. Egyptian big museum that just opened. I would like to go there at some point. I'm really into like Tutankhamun, Great Pyramids and Valley of the Kings, and I've been interested in that since childhood. So maybe at some point. Anyway, I need to go. I need to eat something because I'm gonna be out and about in quite a like an hour from now, maybe even less. So I have to hurry eating something. I haven't eaten anything today. yet. Thank you very much for having tuned into this stream. Much appreciated. It was a spontaneous one, so it's always tricky. I don't know if people will show up. Luckily, you guys showed up. It's much appreciated. Thanks for everything in terms of, supporting the channel, watching my videos first and foremost, sharing, liking, subscribing, commenting, or becoming a Patreon member or becoming a channel member, tipping something, super chats, super thanks, or for the last time today, getting a mug from my merch store, or like a shirt or a hoodie, because that also helps a lot. Link in the description down below and on my channel page. As always, hope you're gonna have a great rest of the Sunday, great Sunday in general. And yeah, see you soon. Thank you very much. Much appreciated, everything from the bottom of my German heart. See you soon. Bye and have a great day. Bye bye. Tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal.